Welcome to today's Explainer. When we think about the absolute giants of the fast food world, it's usually those famous golden arches, or maybe a royal burger crown that pops into our heads first, right? But what if I told you that the foundation for nearly all of modern fast food was actually laid down by a brand you probably associate mostly with frosted glass mugs and root beer floats? Today, we're diving into the hidden, 100-year history of America's oldest franchise restaurant brand, A&W. We're going to see exactly how this silent architect completely shaped the way we eat on the go. Just to kick things off, let me ask you, what on earth does a massive multi-billion-dollar luxury hotel chain have to do with root beer? And hey, who actually invented the bacon cheeseburger? Interestingly enough, the answers to both of these seemingly totally unrelated questions point straight back to A&W. Throughout this explainer, we're going to solve these historical mysteries together, using the documented facts right in front of us.
Section 1. The root beer origins. Every empire has to start somewhere, and for this one, we're heading back over a century ago to sunny California.
Our story officially kicks off on a warm June day, way back in 1919. A traveling entrepreneur named Roy W. Allen set up a humble little roadside stand to capitalize on the crowds at a Veterans Parade in Lodi, California. He was slinging root beer for just 5 cents a cup. But look, this wasn't just your run-of-the-mill soda. Allen had actually bought a proprietary recipe from an Arizona pharmacist. It was this totally unique blend of herbs, bark, spices, and berries, and man, it was a massive hit. Allen took that success and just ran with it, immediately opening up more stands in nearby cities.
So looking at this timeline of their rapid expansion, you can really see how this blew up into an empire. In 1922, 3 years after that first stand, Roy Allen teamed up with a guy named Frank Wright. They smashed the initials of their last names together, Allen and Wright, and boom, the A&W brand was officially born. Just a few years later, in 1926, Allen bought Wright out and actually started selling restaurant franchises. Think about that for a second. That makes A&W the absolute oldest franchise restaurant brand in America. And their resilience was just incredible. Despite the Great Depression and all the rationing of sugar and meat during World War II, A&W expanded relentlessly. By 1941, they were up to 260 locations. Then, fueled by that post-war boom and everyone suddenly owning cars, that number skyrocketed to over 2,000 locations by 1960.
Moving right along to Section 2, pioneering fast food culture. Because A&W didn't just grow. They quietly invented some of the most fundamental fast food staples we completely take for granted today.
We're talking about some truly groundbreaking firsts here. As early as 1921, at his second location in Sacramento, Allen introduced curbside tray boys. They physically delivered root beer and burgers right to customers sitting in their cars, which makes A&W an early pioneer, if not the literal inventor, of the whole drive-in restaurant concept. We already touched on their 1926 creation of the world's first franchise system, but the real showstopper here is that third point. In 1963, a guy named Dale Mulder, who was an A&W franchise partner up in Lansing, Michigan, officially invented the bacon cheeseburger. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the single most popular menu items in global fast food history was born right there at an A&W drive-in. Mulder's idea was such a home run that he actually ended up becoming the president and chairman of the entire company later on.
All right, Section 3, the burger family tree. By the 1960s, A&W was pushing way past just root beer, and they needed a clever way to market their rapidly expanding food menu. Their solution was, honestly, incredibly quirky and pretty brilliant. They rolled out the burger family. Instead of boring old small, medium, and large sizes, every single member of the family got their own specific sandwich. You had the Papa Burger, which was the biggest, the Mama Burger, the Teen Burger, and of course the Baby Burger for the kids. But the really special part was that each burger came with its own custom toppings and sauces, like literally Papa Sauce and Teen Sauce. To get the word out, A&W went all in on marketing, putting up these massive, towering roadside statues of all 4 family members holding burgers and frosted mugs, all designed to lure in hungry traveling families.
But, there was one burger that didn't exactly fit that wholesome family mold. Take a look at this number, a $1.10, $1.10. Back in 1960, this was the price of an absolute behemoth on the menu called the Awful Awful Burger. And since most of their burgers only had one patty at the time, this was, as they said, an awful lot of sandwich. It was completely stacked with 2 thick burger patties, bacon, lettuce, tomato, onion, mayo, and pickles. To put that into perspective, if you adjust that $1.10 for modern inflation, you're looking at a premium burger that would cost roughly $8.85 today.
Let's move to Section 4, the Great Canadian Divide. A&W opened its first Canadian restaurant in 1956, but something truly fascinating happened across the northern border in the 1970s that completely fractured the brand's identity.
If you look at the two brands today, the US and Canadian A&Ws are, technically speaking, entirely different restaurants. That corporate link between the two lasted for less than 20 years. By 1972, the Canadian division got sold off to Unilever. And yeah, that is the exact same massive global company that makes soap and laundry detergent. So while they still share similar logos, and they obviously both serve root beer, the US chain kept its All-American Foods tagline. Naturally, that tagline wouldn't make a lick of sense up north, so instead, the newly independent A&W Canada eventually pivoted hard, shifting to a massive focus on hormone and steroid-free meat products.
Because of that split, there are some pretty wild things you will literally only find in Canada now. While those iconic burger family statues mostly vanished down the US, Canada kept the entire burger family. They even expanded it, adding Grandpa and Uncle burgers to the mix. Then in 2017, A&W Canada went a step further. They completely reformulated their root beer, ditching high-fructose corn syrup entirely in favor of natural cane sugar, real sarsaparilla root, licorice, and birch bark. Plus, they're absolute marketing geniuses up there. They even hosted the world's first float-through, where they literally handed out free burgers to unsuspecting swimmers casually floating down the Okanagan River. How cool is that?
And that brings us to Section 5, Mascots, Milestones, and Marriott. This is where we connect A&W to pop culture and finally solve that massive luxury hotel mystery I teased at the very beginning of the explainer.
First, let's talk about their iconic mascot, Rudy the Great Root Beer, who made his debut back in 1974. Over the decades, Rudy has been this incredibly beloved brand ambassador. He even has his own tuba-driven theme song. To add a little personality to their famous drink, A&W actually outlines Rudy's process for making their root beer right on their website. It goes like this. First, he studies that secret caffeine-free recipe from 1919. Then he rounds up the best ingredients, like real cane sugar. He stirs and stirs, adds just the absolute perfect amount of fizz, fills a massive frosted glass mug right to the tippy-tip top, and finishes it all off with a taste test. It's just a really charming way to remind folks about their commitment to making the root beer fresh right there in the restaurants.
But hey, what if you actually want to take that root beer home? Well, the data shows some pretty fascinating insights about A&W's retail shelf life. Astonishingly enough, you literally couldn't even buy A&W root beer in a retail bottle or can until 1971. They kept it totally exclusive to those restaurant frosted mugs for over 50 years. Today, if you grab it in a store, the freshness depends heavily on the container you choose. Glass bottles and cans give you a solid shelf life of about 39 weeks. But check this out. If you buy the diet versions in plastic bottles, that shelf life plummets down to just 13 weeks. So the big takeaway here? Definitely check those labels if you're stocking up the pantry.
All right, are you ready to solve our final mystery? Get a load of this quote. Jay Willard and Alice Marriott, the founders of Marriott Hotels, first ran an A&W root beer stand together in Washington, D.C. Isn't that just unbelievable? One of the absolutely largest, multi-billion-dollar luxury hospitality empires on the entire planet got its start in 1927 as a humble little A&W root beer franchise. This just perfectly illustrates the power of starting small and scaling up. When you look at the hot shop's evolution mapped out here, it's wild. The Marriotts quickly realized that selling cold drinks in the winter wasn't going to cut it. So they smartly added chili, coffee, and hot tamales to their A&W stand, and they rebranded the whole thing as Hot Shops. They expanded this concept fast. By the late 1930s, they were catering actual meals for airplane passengers flying out of D.C. By the 1950s, they were supplying food to hospitals, and finally, they took the massive profits they'd made from this food service empire and used them to construct the very first Marriott Hotel in 1957. And the whole shebang traces right back to pouring root beer.
Today, A&W really honors those deep historical roots. Every single year, August 6th is officially National Root Beer Float Day. The brand celebrates by giving away free small root beer floats at their U.S. restaurants. But it's not just some cheap marketing gimmick. It is a major philanthropic effort. In return for your free float, they just ask for a suggested donation to disabled American veterans. It's a beautiful nod to their 1919 origins at that Veterans Parade. And through this modern tradition, A&W has raised over $1 million for veterans charities. Just a fantastic way to give back.
So, we've just covered a century of innovation, going from drive-in tray boys to the invention of the bacon cheeseburger, and from the quirky burger family all the way to the birth of the Marriott empire. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If a 5-cent drink sold at a 1919 parade could somehow build the very framework of the modern fast food industry and launch a global hotel empire, what humble idea today might completely shape the next century? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.